Hi guys, tonight, we travel quietly into the distant world of ancient Rome. Close your eyes, relax, and drift gently into history. There is no need to hurry. The Roman world is already awake somewhere far away, in a time when roads were made of stone, lamps burned with olive oil, and the sound of sandals against a worn floor could tell you that another ordinary morning had begun. Welcome to another quiet journey through the past. Tonight's story begins in a forgotten corner of the Roman world, during the soft hours before sunrise. The streets are still dim. The air is cool. The houses are mostly silent. Somewhere nearby, a small clay lamp has burned through the night, leaving only a faint smell of oil in the room. A worker is sleeping on a simple bed. The bed is not large. It is made from wood, rope, and a thin covering of wool or rough cloth. The pillow is small and firm. There is no deep mattress beneath the body. There is no soft room waiting to welcome the morning. There is simply a quiet room. The walls are plain. The floor is hard. The family sleeps close together because space is valuable, and warmth is useful during the cooler hours before dawn. Outside, Rome is beginning to breathe. Not loudly. Not yet. A donkey moves somewhere along a narrow street. Its hooves make a soft sound against the stones. A door opens. Someone coughs. A wooden shutter is pushed aside. From a nearby cooking place comes the faintest scent of yesterday's ashes. Then comes the first light. It touches the rooftops very slowly. For most people living in the Roman world, life does not begin with grand events. It begins with waking. It begins with tired eyes opening in a dark room. It begins with the knowledge that there is work to do. A farmer must walk toward the fields. A baker must prepare the ovens. A fisherman must check the river or the sea. A potter must enter the workshop. A construction worker must carry stone, timber, clay, or water. A servant must rise before the household that employs them. A shopkeeper must lift the wooden shutters. A scribe must prepare his writing materials. And somewhere in the city, someone is already sweeping yesterday's dust from the floor. This was the quiet rhythm of Roman life. Rome is often remembered through its emperors, its armies, its monuments, and its great public buildings. But most days did not belong to emperors. They belonged to workers. They belonged to people whose names were rarely written down. People who woke before the streets became crowded. People who carried baskets. People who kneaded bread. People who repaired sandals. People who dug irrigation channels. People who loaded carts. People who cleaned houses. People who harvested grain. People who shaped clay. People who moved through the city carrying ordinary things that allowed the enormous Roman world to continue. And so, in the early morning darkness, we can begin with one of those ordinary people. There is no need to give him a famous name. He is simply a worker. His home is somewhere in a crowded neighborhood. The walls are close to other walls. The streets outside are narrow. The sounds of neighbors pass easily through the building. He wakes because the morning has arrived. For a moment, he remains still. The room is cool. The blanket is rough against his shoulders. Beside him, other members of the household are still sleeping. He listens. This is one of the quietest moments of the day. The city has not yet become busy. He can hear the faint movement of someone outside. Perhaps a cart is being prepared. Perhaps a shopkeeper is arranging goods. Perhaps a woman is already beginning the morning meal. The worker slowly sits up. His feet touch the floor. The stone is cold. He stands. There is no ceremony to this. It is simply another morning. He reaches for his clothing. Roman workers wore many kinds of clothing, depending on their work, their place in society, and what they could afford. A simple tunic was common. It might be made of wool or linen. It might be plain and worn from repeated use. Clothing was not simply decoration. It was something to live in. Something to work in. Something to wash when possible and repair when necessary. A worker who spent the day carrying heavy loads did not need delicate clothing. The fabric needed to survive. The sandals needed to survive. The person wearing them needed to survive the day. So the morning begins with small practical movements. A tunic pulled into place. A belt tightened. Sandals adjusted. A cloth lifted from the corner of the room. The door opened. Cool air enters. And the worker steps outside. The street is still gray. The stones beneath his sandals are uneven. Some have been polished smooth by years of footsteps. Others remain rough. The road carries the marks of countless people who have walked the same way. Workers. Children. Animals. Travelers. Messengers. Merchants. Servants. Soldiers. Old people moving slowly. Young people moving quickly. Everyone sharing the same roads. The worker begins walking. There is a soft sound beneath his feet. Step. 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 The city is gradually waking around him. Rome was never only one kind of place. There were wealthy neighborhoods with large homes and quiet gardens. There were crowded apartment buildings. There were workshops. Markets. Bathhouses. Temples. Warehouses. Taverns. Courtyards. Small houses. Large villas. And beyond the city itself, there were farms, villages, roads, rivers, ports, and distant settlements connected to the larger Roman world. The worker may live in one place and work in another. He may walk for some time each morning. For many people, the journey to work was part of the daily routine. There were no clocks in every home. There was no need to know the exact minute. The sun provided the broad rhythm of the day. Morning. Midday. Afternoon. Evening. The worker knows that the day has begun because the darkness is fading. The sky becomes pale. The rooftops appear. The air begins to warm. And the streets slowly fill. A baker opens his shop. The smell of grain and smoke drifts through the street. Bread is one of the most familiar foods of the Roman world. For the baker, however, bread is not simply food. It is work. Long before many people eat their morning meal, the baker has already been busy. Grain must be ground. Dough must be prepared. The oven must be heated. The fire must be watched. The dough must be shaped. The bread must be placed inside. The heat must be managed carefully. The bakery is warm. Very warm. Even in the early morning. The worker walking past can feel the heat spilling into the street. He does not stop. He has his own work waiting. A little farther along, another worker is carrying a basket. Inside are vegetables. Perhaps onions. Perhaps beans. Perhaps greens. Perhaps small amounts of fruit. Food in the Roman world varied greatly according to wealth and location. For ordinary people, simple foods could provide the foundation of the day. Grain was important. Bread was important. Porridge could be simple and filling. Beans and lentils could be useful. Olives were common in many places. Oil was used for cooking and lighting. Fish was available in coastal regions and near rivers. Meat existed, but it was not necessarily part of every ordinary meal. A worker did not need an elaborate breakfast. There was work ahead. A small portion of bread might be enough. Perhaps some olives. Perhaps a little cheese. Perhaps a bowl of grain-based food. Perhaps leftovers from the previous evening. The morning meal could be quiet and practical. There was no reason to make it complicated. Food existed to give the body enough strength to continue. The worker reaches the place where he will spend the day. Perhaps it is a building site. The smell of dust is already in the air. Stones lie in rough piles. Wooden beams rest against a wall. Tools are placed nearby. Other workers are arriving. They greet one another. Their voices are low. The morning is still cool. For a short while, the heavy heat of the day has not yet arrived. This is one of the gentler moments for physical labor. The first task begins. A stone is lifted. A basket is carried. A rope is pulled. Clay is moved. Wood is measured. The work repeats. Again. And again. And again. This repetition is one of the quietest parts of ancient life. A building does not rise from one dramatic moment. It rises slowly. One stone at a time. One basket at a time. One wooden beam at a time. One worker follows another. The same movements are performed hundreds of times. The body learns them. The hands learn them. The feet learn where to stand. The shoulders learn how much weight they can carry. The mind becomes familiar with the rhythm. Lift. Carry. Place. Return. Lift. Carry. Place. Return. The Roman world depended on this kind of labor. Roads required workers. Walls required workers. Bridges required workers. Homes required workers. Bathhouses required workers. Markets required workers. Ships required workers. Fields required workers. Mills required workers. Workshops required workers. The great structures that later generations would admire were made possible by countless ordinary movements. Yet for the people doing the work, there was usually nothing grand about it. It was simply the day's labor. The sun rises higher. The shadows become shorter. The cool morning begins to disappear. The worker wipes dust from his forehead. The air becomes heavier. Stone absorbs heat. Walls reflect heat. The ground becomes warm beneath the sandals. There is less shade. The body begins to tire. Still, the work continues. A man carries a basket. Another cuts wood. Someone else prepares mortar. A fourth worker checks a tool. Nearby, an older worker sits for a moment. He stretches his hands. His fingers are stiff. Years of labor have left their marks. The Roman world was a physical world. There were many ways for a person to become tired. Long walking. Heavy lifting. Digging. Grinding grain. Working in a furnace. Working in a kitchen. Working in a field. Cleaning. Washing. Carrying water. Loading ships. Unloading carts. Turning millstones. Repairing walls. Shaping metal. Making pottery. Making cloth. Every task placed some demand on the body. And so rest was not a luxury in the way we might imagine it. Rest was necessary. A worker sits when he can. He leans against a wall. He lowers his head. He drinks water. The water may be carried in a clay vessel. The vessel is cool compared with the air. For a moment, that coolness feels good against the hand. Then he drinks. The simple act of drinking becomes part of the rhythm of the morning. The vessel is passed. Someone else drinks. Then the work begins again. In the distance, the sounds of the city continue. A cart rolls over stone. A mule complains. A merchant calls out. Someone is arguing over the price of a small object. A child runs through an alley. A door closes. The sound fades. Then comes another sound. A hammer. Slow. Steady. Metal against metal. Perhaps a blacksmith is working nearby. The workshop is dark compared with the bright street. Inside, the air is thick. The fire glows. The worker stands close to it. His arms move in a practiced rhythm. The hammer rises. Falls. Rises. Falls. The sound echoes inside the small room. It is not fast. It does not need to be. The work has its own pace. Ancient workshops often carried their own smells. Hot metal. Smoke. Leather. Clay. Wood. Oil. Sweat. Dust. Grain. The Roman city was a mixture of these ordinary scents. There were no clean divisions between work and living. A workshop could be next to a home. A family might live above a place of work. Children could grow up surrounded by tools. A person might learn a trade simply by watching an older family member. The skills of ordinary life passed quietly from one generation to another. A boy might watch his father repair a sandal. A girl might watch her mother spin thread. A child might learn how dough should feel beneath the hands. Someone might learn how to judge the right moment to remove bread from an oven. Someone else might learn how to recognize good clay. There was no need for a formal lesson. The knowledge was simply there. It existed in the hands, in the eyes, in memory, in repetition. Outside the city, the same rhythm continued in the countryside. There, the morning could feel more open. The fields stretched beneath the sky. The roads were dusty. Trees provided patches of shade. Animals moved slowly. Farmers began their work with the changing seasons. Agricultural labor could be demanding, but it also followed familiar patterns. The earth had its own rhythm. Seeds. Rain. Growth. Harvest. Storage. Then the cycle began again. A farmer could spend hours working beneath the sun. There was little need for conversation. The field itself provided the rhythm. A tool entered the soil. The soil was turned. A seed was placed. The row continued. Step after step. The Roman countryside was filled with these quiet movements. A person might hear birds in the morning. The distant sound of animals. The creaking of a wooden cart. The rustle of grain. The soft movement of wind through trees. Far away, perhaps, the city was invisible. The farmer's world might seem very small. A house. A field. A road. A nearby village. A well. A few animals. Yet this small world was connected to Rome. The grain grown in one place might feed people somewhere else. Olive oil could travel long distances. Wine could move from one region to another. Pottery could be carried across seas. Salt could travel along roads. Fish could be preserved and transported. The Roman world was large because countless small places were connected by ordinary work. And much of that work was done quietly. A farmer did not need to understand the whole empire. He needed to know his field. He needed to know the weather. He needed to know his animals. He needed to know the condition of his tools. He needed to know when to plant, when to harvest, when to rest. And when the evening came, he needed to know the way home. Back in the city, the sun continues climbing. The streets are now brighter. The morning has become day. The worker's body feels heavier. Dust clings to his skin. His hands are dry. His feet are warm inside the sandals. The tunic is no longer cool. It sticks lightly against the body. He works without much thought. There is comfort in familiarity. The same place. The same tools. The same tasks. The same people. The same rough walls. The same street outside. For many workers, life could be difficult. There was illness. There were injuries. There were days when food was scarce. There were periods when work was uncertain. There were debts. There were social differences. There were people who had very little control over their own lives. Not every Roman worker lived peacefully. Not every day was gentle. The ancient world could be harsh. But even within that harshness, ordinary life contains small quiet moments. A cup of water. A piece of warm bread. A patch of shade. A familiar face. A cool breeze. A place to sit. A short sleep in the afternoon. A child laughing in a courtyard. The smell of food cooking. The sound of rain on a roof. The feeling of clean water after a long day. These small moments were part of life too. History often leaves behind the large things. But people live through the small things. A worker may remember the taste of bread more clearly than the name of a ruler. He may remember the smell of the workshop. The sound of his sandals. The coolness of a shaded wall. The warmth of a cooking fire. The sound of someone he loved calling from another room. These are the things that made a life. And so, as the day continues, we can slowly move away from the great monuments and return to the narrow streets. A woman is preparing food. She sits near a small cooking fire. The fire is not large. It does not need to be. A clay pot rests above it. Inside, something simple is cooking. The smoke rises slowly. The room becomes warm. She adjusts the pot. Stirs it. Waits. There is no hurry. The meal will be ready when it is ready. Nearby, bread rests on a surface. The crust has darkened from the oven. The smell fills the small space. A child sits nearby. The child is watching. Perhaps hungry. Perhaps tired. Perhaps simply curious. This is another ordinary Roman scene. Not a palace. Not a triumph. Not a battlefield. Just food being prepared. A family waiting. The day passing. The Roman household could be busy, especially for those with many family members or servants. Water had to be obtained. Food had to be prepared. Clothes had to be washed. Tools had to be maintained. Rooms had to be cleaned. Children had to be cared for. Animals might need attention. Fire had to be kept alive. There were always small tasks. Many of them were repetitive. Many of them were invisible. And yet without them, the household would stop functioning. The same was true of the larger city. Someone had to clean the streets. Someone had to move waste. Someone had to carry goods. Someone had to repair pipes. Someone had to tend animals. Someone had to unload ships. Someone had to grind grain. Someone had to prepare meals. Someone had to make lamps. Someone had to make pottery to hold water. Someone had to make baskets to carry food. Someone had to repair the roof when rain came. The Roman world was built from these quiet acts. The worker returns to his labor. The afternoon heat has begun. The pace becomes slower. The air shimmers above the road. The stones seem to hold the heat of the sun. People look for shade whenever they can. A wall becomes a resting place. A tree becomes a shelter. A covered walkway becomes valuable. Even a small patch of darkness can feel cool after hours beneath the sun. The worker sits. He lowers his head. For a few moments, he closes his eyes. The city continues without him. The hammer sounds. The carts move. The voices rise and fall. The animals pass. But his eyes remain closed. He is not sleeping deeply. He is simply resting. Perhaps he thinks about home. Perhaps he thinks about food. Perhaps he thinks about nothing at all. That may be one of the quietest things to imagine about the ancient world. Sometimes people were simply tired. Sometimes they sat in the shade and did nothing for a little while. No great thought. No important decision. Just rest. Then eventually, the work resumes. The sun begins its slow movement toward the western horizon. The light changes. The harsh brightness softens. Shadows stretch across the roads. The stone buildings become warmer in color. Dust floats through the golden light. The worker notices that the day is beginning to end. There are still tasks to finish. Tools must be put away. Materials must be covered. Animals must be returned. Doors must be closed. The work area must be made ready for tomorrow. This is another quiet truth of labor. The day does not end simply because the body is tired. There are still small things to do. A tool is cleaned. A rope is coiled. A basket is moved. A door is secured. The final piece of work is completed. Then the worker steps away. His body is heavy. His shoulders ache. His hands are tired. But the evening air feels different. Cooler. Softer. The streets begin to change. The daytime crowd slowly thins. Shops begin to close. Wooden shutters are lowered. A merchant gathers his remaining goods. A baker removes the final loaves. A workshop becomes quiet. The hammer stops. The fire is reduced. The city breathes more slowly. The worker begins walking home. His sandals touch the stone. Step. 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 The same road that seemed long in the morning now feels familiar. The light is fading. A few lamps appear. Small flames behind clay or metal. Their light is weak. But it is enough. The worker passes a doorway. Inside, a family is eating. He catches the smell of food. He continues. Another doorway. Another small light. Another household beginning its evening. The city is becoming a collection of little rooms filled with quiet life. Somewhere, a baby cries. Somewhere, someone sings softly. Somewhere, two people talk. Somewhere, an old person is already lying down. Somewhere, a servant is still working. Somewhere, a fisherman is returning. Somewhere, a farmer is walking home beneath the darkening sky. The Roman world is settling into night. And now the worker reaches his own home. The door opens. Warm air meets him. The smell of food is waiting. Perhaps the meal is simple. Bread, olives, beans, vegetables, a little cheese, perhaps fish, perhaps something cooked slowly over a small fire. He sits. For the first time since morning, there is no need to carry anything. No stone. No basket. No tool. Nothing. He simply sits. His feet rest on the floor. His hands lie quietly in his lap. Someone gives him food. He eats slowly. There is conversation, but it is not necessary. The household already knows how the day went. They can see it. Dust on the clothing. Tired eyes. Hands marked by work. The meal continues. Outside, the last sounds of the day move through the street. A cart passes. Then another. A dog barks. A door closes. The sound fades. The room becomes quiet. The fire burns lower. The light from the flame moves gently across the wall. The worker looks at it. For a moment, nothing needs to happen. The day is almost finished. This was one of the great rhythms of ordinary Roman life. Morning came. Work began. The sun grew hot. The body became tired. The work continued. Evening arrived. Food was eaten. The fire became smaller. And eventually, sleep. Tomorrow would be similar. Not exactly the same. But similar enough. Another morning. Another road. Another day of work. Another evening. And another night beneath the Roman sky. The worker does not know what future generations will think of his world. He does not know which buildings will survive. He does not know which emperors will be remembered. He does not know that one day people will study the roads he walked upon. He does not know that the broken pieces of his ordinary life will become clues about an ancient world. He only knows that he is tired. And that tonight, he can rest. The lamp beside him burns quietly, moves when the air enters through the doorway. The walls are warm from the day. Outside, the stones are cooling. The streets are becoming darker. The sounds are fewer now. The worker lies down. The rough bedding receives his tired body. His shoulders relax. His hands stop moving. His feet are still dusty from the road. His breathing becomes slower. The one person turns in sleep. Another breathes softly. A child moves beneath a blanket. Then stillness returns. The Roman city continues somewhere beyond the walls. But from inside this small room, it feels very far away. There is only darkness. A little warmth. The faint smell of oil. The quiet breathing of other sleepers. And the knowledge that another day has passed. Outside, the moon moves slowly above the rooftops. Its light touches the old stones. It falls across narrow streets. It rests on walls. It shines over courtyards. It reaches the distant countryside. There, fields lie quietly beneath the night. Animals are sleeping. The road is empty. The trees move slightly in the night breeze. Farther away, a river moves through the darkness. Its surface catches a little moonlight. The water continues flowing. Slowly. Without hurry. Just as it has flowed before. And beside it, another worker may be sleeping. Another household. Another small fire. Another simple meal. Another tired body resting after a day of labor. The Roman world was enormous. But for most people, life was lived within a much smaller circle. Home. Work. family, food, road, field, workshop, market, river, sleep, then morning again. This simple rhythm carried millions of ordinary lives. And perhaps there is something peaceful in imagining it. Not because life was easy. It was not. But because the rhythm itself was familiar. The sun rose. People worked. The sun moved across the sky. People rested. The evening came. People returned home. The lamps were lit. Food was shared. Then darkness. And sleep. The great Roman roads could stretch for hundreds of miles. Ships could cross distant seas. Armies could march across provinces. Messages could travel between cities. Goods could move from one region to another. But beneath all of that movement was something much quieter. The daily routine of ordinary people. The baker turning dough. The farmer touching the soil. The fisherman pulling a net. The potter shaping clay. The carpenter smoothing wood. The servant carrying water. The mason lifting stone. The scribe bending over a writing surface. The mother preparing food. The child falling asleep. The old worker resting his hands. The city itself depended on all of them. And when night arrived, they became quiet again. The tools were put away. The fires became smaller. The doors were closed. The roads emptied. The lamps flickered. And the Roman world rested. For tonight, we can remain here for a little longer. We can stay beside this quiet household. The worker is already asleep. His breathing is slow. The room is dark. Outside, the night air moves through the narrow streets. A distant footstep appears. Then disappears. A lamp burns at the end of an alley. Its flame is small. It trembles gently. Then steadies. The city is not completely silent. Ancient cities rarely were. There is always some movement. Some animal. Some late traveler. Some worker beginning an early task. Some guard walking slowly. Some household awake. But the noise is softened by darkness. Everything seems farther away. The stones are cool. The rooftops are dark shapes against the sky. The moon remains above the city. And somewhere beyond the walls, the countryside lies peacefully beneath it. The first part of the day has ended. But the rhythm of Roman life continues quietly beyond this room, waiting for another morning. And when that morning comes, the first light will once again touch the rooftops. A door will open. A worker will rise. Sandals will touch stone. A small fire will begin to glow. Bread will be prepared. Tools will be lifted. And another ordinary day will slowly begin. Morning returns quietly to the Roman world. The first light has not yet become bright. It rests softly along the edges of rooftops, touching the highest stones before reaching the streets below. In the narrow lanes, the darkness remains for a little longer. The air is cool against the walls. A few lamps still burn inside homes, their small flames almost lost in the growing light. And once again, people begin to wake. A worker turns beneath a rough blanket. For a moment, there is only the sound of breathing. Then comes the small movement of waking life. A hand reaches toward the edge of the bed. Feet find the floor. A blanket is folded back. The day begins. There is something almost comforting in how familiar this movement is. Yesterday has become today. The same walls are around the worker. The same doorway. The same street. The same tools waiting somewhere beyond the house. The same sky above. The Roman world may be changing slowly across years and generations, but the morning routine of an ordinary worker can remain almost unchanged. Wake. Dress. Eat. Walk. Work. Rest. Return. Eat again. Sleep. Then begin once more. In a small home, someone is already preparing the morning meal. The fire is being coaxed back to life. A few pieces of fuel are placed together. A little smoke rises. Then a small orange glow appears. The flame catches. It moves gently beneath the cooking vessel. The room becomes warmer. A pot is placed above the fire. Perhaps grain is being cooked. Perhaps yesterday's food is being warmed. Perhaps bread is being heated slightly. The smell is simple. Smoke. Grain. Olive oil. Warm clay. It is not a rich smell. It is a familiar smell. A smell that belongs to home. The worker eats slowly. There is no reason to rush the first few bites. Outside, the morning is still young. The streets are beginning to fill. But inside the small room, there is a little warmth. The worker drinks. He eats. He sits for a few moments longer. Then he rises. The bowl is set aside. The sandals are tightened. The doorway opens. Cool air enters again. And the worker steps into the morning. The Roman city stretches around him. There are buildings of different sizes and shapes. Some are plain. Some are impressive. Some are old. Some are newly repaired. Some have painted walls. Others are covered with dust. The city is never perfectly clean. Dust gathers in corners. Mud appears after rain. Waste must be moved. Animals leave their traces. People carry dirt on their feet. The roads are used constantly. Thousands of footsteps pass over the same stones. The worker walks through this familiar landscape. A woman carrying water passes him. A man leads a mule. A young servant carries a basket. Two merchants speak quietly near a doorway. A child sits on a step. A dog sleeps in the shade. Nobody seems to notice the whole city. Each person is moving through a small piece of it. And that is how the great city works. Not as one giant movement, but as thousands of small movements happening at the same time. A door opens here. A cart moves there. A baker lifts bread. A farmer enters through a gate. A fisherman carries his catch. A potter begins his wheel. A servant fills a jar. A mason raises a stone. The day grows. The sun climbs. And the streets become warmer. One of the busiest places in the Roman world is the market. But even the market has quiet moments. Before the crowds become heavy, sellers arrange their goods. Vegetables are placed in baskets. Fruits are arranged carefully. Jars are set in rows. Fish are placed where they can be seen. Bread is stacked. Cloth is folded. Pottery is displayed. A merchant wipes dust from a surface. Another checks a scale. Another counts small coins. The sounds remain gentle at first. Then more people arrive. The market slowly becomes louder. But for the worker passing through, it is simply part of the morning. He may stop briefly. Perhaps he needs something for the household. Maybe oil. Maybe grain. Maybe vegetables. Maybe a small piece of fish. Maybe nothing at all. Sometimes people simply walk through the market. They see things. They listen. They continue. Ancient cities were full of such small encounters. People crossed paths without knowing one another. A person could spend years walking the same street and recognize familiar faces without ever knowing their names. The woman at the bakery. The old man near the fountain. The fisherman by the river. The seller who always sits beneath the same awning. The worker who passes every morning carrying the same tools. These familiar faces became part of the landscape. Like walls. Like trees. Like roads. Like the smell of bread. And after enough mornings, their presence could feel almost permanent. The worker continues toward his workplace. Today he is working with stone. The building site is already active. Several workers are carrying materials. A wooden frame stands against a wall. Tools rest on the ground. A pile of stone waits beneath the morning light. The work begins. One worker bends. He grips a rope. Another takes the other end. Together they pull. The stone moves slowly. The rope becomes tight. Their feet press against the ground. Their shoulders lean backward. Then the stone shifts. Just a little. They stop. Breathe. Pull again. The movement is slow. There is no reason to waste energy. Every worker learns that. Physical work requires patience. A person who moves too quickly becomes tired too soon. So the body finds a rhythm. Breathe. Lift. Step. Rest. Then again. The sounds of construction are repetitive. Stone against stone. Wood against wood. Rope tightening. Feet moving over dust. Voices giving short instructions. A tool striking a surface. Then silence for a moment. Then the same sounds again. The sun rises higher. The coolness disappears. The worker's skin becomes warm. Dust begins to settle on his arms. His hands become rough. His sandals collect small stones. He keeps working. There is no need for conversation all the time. Workers can spend long hours beside one another without speaking. The work itself fills the silence. A person lifts. Another carries. Another places. Another checks. Then the cycle repeats. In a world without machines doing most of the heavy work, the human body was one of the main tools. Hands. Back. Shoulders. Legs. Eyes. Memory. Skill. All were needed. Some work required great strength. Other work required patience. A potter could sit for hours shaping clay. The hands might move gently. The wheel turns. The clay rises. The worker's fingers guide it. Too much pressure and the shape collapses. Too little pressure and the clay does not respond. The potter learns the material through touch. The workshop becomes quiet except for the turning wheel. Round and round. A soft rhythm. The same movement repeated. The same shape gradually appearing. The potter does not need to hurry. The clay has its own pace. Nearby, another worker may be preparing leather. The smell is stronger. The material is stretched. Cut. Soaked. Dried. Shaped. A sandal begins as a piece of material. Slowly, through many small actions, it becomes something that can protect a person's feet. The finished sandal may look simple. But someone had to make it. Someone had to prepare the leather. Someone had to cut it. Someone had to shape it. Someone had to attach the straps. Someone had to sell it. And then a worker would place it on his foot and walk away. The object would become part of his daily life. The same was true of almost everything around him. The bowl he ate from, the jar holding his water, the lamp burning beside his bed, the cloth around his body, the basket carrying his food, the wooden spoon, the rope, the sandals, the roof tiles. All of these things came from someone's work. Ancient life was full of objects made slowly by human hands. There were no factories producing endless identical goods in the modern sense. Workshops were often smaller. Skills were local. Production depended on people. And because people made the objects they used, the objects often carried small signs of their makers. A slight unevenness. A rough etch. A fingerprint in clay. A repair. A mark from use. The ancient world was not perfectly smooth. It was worn. Handled. Repaired. Used again. And again. A clay cup might have a small crack. It could still be useful. A basket might be patched. A wooden tool might be repaired. A sandal might be strengthened. A piece of cloth might be stitched. People kept things because things were valuable. A worker understood the value of a tool. A broken tool meant lost time. A lost tool meant more expense. So tools were cared for. At the end of the day, a carpenter might place his tools carefully against a wall. A farmer might clean soil from a blade. A fisherman might repair a net. A potter might prepare the clay for the next morning. The final moments of the workday often involved preparing for tomorrow. Tomorrow was already waiting. But before tomorrow, there was still today. The sun has reached its highest point. The heat presses down. The worker stops again. This time, the shade feels especially welcome. He sits beneath a wall. Someone nearby shares water. The vessel is passed from hand to hand. The water is warm. Not perfectly cool. But it is water. And after hours of labor, that is enough. The worker drinks. He closes his eyes. For a few moments, he listens to the city. The sounds are softened by heat. Voices seem slower. Animals stand in shade. Even the wind feels tired. A few birds move between rooftops. The worker rests his head against the wall. His body feels heavy. His hands are sore. His shoulders ache. There may be a small pain in his back. A familiar pain. The kind of pain that comes from doing the same work day after day. Ancient workers knew fatigue intimately. They knew what it meant to finish a day with aching feet. They knew what it meant to wake with stiffness in the body. They knew that an injury could change everything. A cut on the hand. A damaged foot. A strained back. An illness. A fever. A problem with the eyes. Something small could make work difficult. And for a person who depended on daily labor, missing work could have serious consequences. So workers often continued through discomfort. They rested when they could. They used simple treatments. They sought help from family, healers, or others who knew something about medicine. But there was no certainty. Illness was a normal part of life. People became sick. Some recovered. Some did not. The ancient world had knowledge of herbs, wounds, bones, fever, and many kinds of treatment. But medicine was limited. A worker could know exactly what had happened to his body and still have little power to change it. This gave daily health a quiet importance. Clean water mattered. Food mattered. Sleep mattered. Rest mattered. A worker's body was his means of living. So when the body was strong enough, work continued. And when it was not, life became uncertain. Yet most mornings still arrived. Most workers still rose. Most fields were still planted. Most ovens were still heated. Most boats still left the shore. Life continued through ordinary routines. Along the river, another kind of work was beginning. The water moves quietly. A fisherman stands near the edge. The morning light is reflected on the surface. He checks his net. It has been repaired in several places. Some sections are newer than others. The rope has different shades from repeated use. He lifts it carefully. Then he walks toward the water. The river is cooler than the land. The air near it carries moisture. The smell is different. Less dust. More water. The fisherman steps into the boat. The boat is simple. Wood. Rope. Tools. Perhaps a small basket. He pushes away from the shore. The movement is slow. The oar enters the water. Pull. Lift. Pull. Lift. The boat moves. There is no engine. No loud mechanical sound. Only water. Wood. Breathing. Birds. The fisherman knows the river. He knows where the water is deeper. He knows where fish gather. He knows how the current changes. He has learned these things through years of observation. The work is quiet, but it requires attention. The net is lowered. Then there is waiting. This waiting is part of labor too. Not every moment needs movement. Sometimes work means watching, listening, waiting. The sun rises. The water changes color. The fisherman waits. Eventually, the net is pulled upward. It is heavy. The fisherman leans back. His hands tighten. The wet rope slides against his palms. The net comes closer. Perhaps there are fish. Perhaps there are only a few. Perhaps almost nothing. The work must continue either way. He adjusts the net. He tries again. The river keeps moving. The same water passes beneath the boat. Far downstream, another worker is doing something similar. The river connects them without them knowing. This was another feature of ancient labor. People often worked alone while being part of something much larger. The fisherman did not see the farmer. The farmer did not see the baker. The baker did not see the potter. The potter did not see the sailor. Yet their lives were connected. The fisherman provided food. The farmer grew grain. The baker turned grain into bread. The potter made containers. The sailor carried goods. The merchant sold them. The worker who built the road helped the merchant travel. The person who repaired the road depended on the farmer for food. The city was a web of ordinary needs. No single person had to understand the whole system. They simply performed their part. And then the day moved on. In another part of the Roman world, a servant is cleaning a large home. The house belongs to someone wealthier. The rooms are larger. The walls are decorated. There may be painted scenes on the floors. There may be a courtyard. There may be a garden. There may be fountains. But even a beautiful home requires work. Floors collect dust. Dishes need washing. Water must be carried. Clothes need cleaning. Food needs preparing. Beds need arranging. Lamps need filling. Ashes need removing. The servant moves quietly from room to room. A broom brushes against the floor. Softly. Again. And again. Dust gathers in the corner. The broom moves through it. The work is repetitive. The room becomes cleaner. Then another room. The servant carries a vessel. Sets it down. Returns. Carries another. The household may be large, but the individual tasks remain small. A person carries water one container at a time. A person washes one piece of cloth at a time. A person cleans one room at a time. Large households depended on many such small actions. Some servants had little freedom. Some were enslaved. Slavery was deeply woven into Roman society, and many forms of labor were performed by enslaved people who had been deprived of freedom. Their daily lives could be extremely different depending on their work, their owners, their skills, and their circumstances. Some worked in homes. Others worked in farms, mines, workshops, ships, markets, administrative settings. Some had skilled jobs. Some had exhausting labor. The ancient world contained enormous differences between people's lives. And yet even within these differences, the physical rhythm of work could be familiar. Wake. Work. Eat. Work again. Rest. Sleep. The servant in the large house continues moving. The floor is almost clean. A little sunlight enters through the courtyard. Dust floats inside the beam of light. For a moment, the servant pauses. The light touches the floor. Then the broom moves again. In another home, a scribe is working. His labor is quieter. He does not carry stone. He does not pull nets. He does not plow a field. Instead, he sits. His writing surface rests before him. He prepares ink. His tools are simple but valuable. Writing requires skill. A mistake may mean rewriting. A damaged surface may mean lost work. The scribe bends forward. His eyes follow the marks. His hand moves. Slowly. Carefully. Line after line. This kind of work can also create fatigue. The back becomes stiff. The eyes become tired. The hand may ache. The scribe pauses. He looks away. He stretches his fingers. Then returns to the page. The Roman world depended on writing. Records had to be made. Letters had to be written. Accounts had to be kept. Orders had to be recorded. Goods had to be counted. Names had to be listed. People who worked with words supported many other kinds of work. Yet the work itself could be quiet enough that a person might forget how much effort it required. The scribe continues. Outside, the city is bright. Inside, the room is shaded. A breeze enters. The flame of a lamp moves slightly. The scribe writes. The afternoon passes. Across the city, different kinds of labor continue at different speeds. A farmer is carrying tools home. A baker is preparing another batch. A fisherman is returning from the river. A carpenter is finishing a table. A mason is placing the final stones of the day's work. A woman is grinding grain. A servant is carrying water. A merchant is counting coins. A child is helping with a small task. An old worker is sitting in the shade. The day is slowly becoming evening. And as the heat begins to soften, people become more active again. The late afternoon can feel almost like a second morning. The worst heat has passed. The air begins to move. Shadows grow longer. The streets become comfortable enough to walk again. Workers finish their final tasks. The farmer checks the field. The fisherman secures his boat. The potter covers the finished pieces. The baker cleans the oven. The carpenter puts away his tools. The servant begins the evening preparations. And slowly, the Roman world turns toward home. A worker walking along the road might pass a public fountain. Water flows quietly. People gather around it. Jars are filled. Hands are washed. Faces are cooled. Children may play nearby. The fountain becomes a place of movement and conversation. Water is one of the quiet foundations of daily life. It is needed for drinking, cooking, cleaning, washing, bathing, animals, workshops, gardens. The availability of water shapes where people live and how they work. A worker carrying a heavy vessel feels the weight immediately. The vessel is not enormous, but water is heavy. The body knows it. One step, then another. The arm becomes tired. The shoulder tightens. The worker changes grip, keeps walking. This is another task that may happen every day. Water carried home. Water carried to work. Water carried to animals. Water carried to kitchens. Water carried upstairs. Again and again. The same journey. The same weight. The same destination. And when the water is finally set down, there is a quiet sense of completion. The vessel rests. The worker rests. Then another task begins. This was the texture of Roman life. One small task following another. No dramatic beginning. No dramatic ending. Just a chain of ordinary needs. As evening approaches, cooking fires appear across the city. Smoke rises between the buildings. The smell of food spreads through the streets. The worker returning home notices the scents. Garlic, oil, warm grain, roasted vegetables, fish, smoke, bread. Different homes smell different. Some meals are simple. Some are more generous. Some families have more food than others. But nearly every home has some kind of evening routine. The fire is lit. The meal is prepared. People gather. The day's work becomes a memory. A worker sits near the fire. His body feels heavy. He removes his sandals. His feet are sore. He stretches his toes. The floor is cool. That small feeling of cool stone beneath tired feet is comforting. Someone brings food. He eats. Slowly. There is no need to hurry now. The workday has ended. The night is waiting. The household speaks quietly. Perhaps they talk about a broken tool. A price at the market. A neighbor. A field. A child. Tomorrow's work. Small matters. Ordinary matters. But these are the things that fill a life. The meal ends. The dishes are moved aside. The fire burns lower. The worker leans back. His eyes are becoming heavy. Outside, the street has become darker. One by one, lamps appear. Small points of light. A little flame in a dark room. Then another. Then another. From above, if anyone could have seen the city at night, they might have seen countless small lights scattered through the darkness. Each one marking a household. A family. A worker. A servant. A merchant. A traveler. A person still awake. And between those lights, long stretches of darkness. The night belongs to everyone. The wealthy. The poor. The worker. The farmer. The fisherman. the child, the old, the tired, the lonely, the people who have finished their work, and the people who must continue working after dark. Some jobs do not stop with sunset. Guards walk. Animals need attention. Ships may arrive. Fires must be watched. Some bakeries begin preparing work before dawn. Some people work late. Others sleep early because their day begins early. There is no single Roman schedule. There are many. But the sun still provides the broad rhythm. Light, work, heat, rest, darkness, sleep. The worker finally lies down. The room is quiet. The lamp is low. The blanket is pulled over the body. The day's dust remains in the folds of the clothing nearby. Tomorrow, those clothes will be worn again. The tools will be used again. The road will be walked again. The same stone walls will stand. The same river will move. The same fields will wait. The same ovens will heat. The same hands will begin their familiar movements. But tonight, there is nothing more to carry. Nothing more to lift. Nothing more to repair. The worker closes his eyes. Outside, the Roman city continues its slow breathing. A distant cart. A quiet voice. A soft animal sound. Then silence. The lamp flickers. The flame becomes smaller. The room darkens. And beyond the walls, the night spreads over the roads and fields. The river moves through the darkness. The farms rest beneath the stars. The workshops are quiet. The market stalls are closed. The tools lie where they were placed. The baskets are empty. The ovens are cooling. The stones are cold again. And the people who spent the day moving the world forward are now lying still. For a few hours, nothing needs to be built. Nothing needs to be carried. Nothing needs to be written. Nothing needs to be sold. Nothing needs to be harvested. The work can wait. The morning will return soon enough. For now, the ancient world is quiet. The night passes slowly over the Roman world. For a little while, the streets are almost empty. The stone roads that were busy during the day now seem wider because fewer people are walking across them. The houses are dark. The workshops are closed. The market stalls are covered. The heat that gathered inside the walls has slowly disappeared into the night air. Above the rooftops, the stars remain quiet. There is no sound from them. They simply remain there. A few lamps continue to burn in doorways and courtyards. Their flames are small and unsteady. Oil is precious enough that a lamp does not need to burn brightly all night. A little light is enough to see a face, a doorway, a bowl, or a sleeping place. Inside one small home, the worker sleeps. His body has settled into the bedding. His breathing is slow. The muscles that carried stones during the day have finally become still. His hands are resting. His shoulders are relaxed. There is dust beneath his fingernails. Tomorrow, he will wash them. Perhaps. If there is enough water. If there is time. For now, sleep is more important. The room is quiet. The people around him are quiet. The night air enters through a small opening. It moves gently across the room. A piece of cloth shifts. Then becomes still again. This is one of the rare moments when a worker does not have to think about the next task. There is no field to watch. No fire to tend. No tool to hold. No customer to serve. No cart to load. No stone to lift. Only sleep. And while the worker sleeps, the Roman world continues quietly around him. Somewhere outside the city, an animal moves through a field. A farmer may have left a gate secured before going to bed. A dog may lift its head. Listen. Then lie down again. Near the river, water moves over the shore. The sound is soft. It has no beginning. No ending. It simply continues. The fisherman who worked there earlier is asleep too. His hands may still feel the rope. His shoulders may still remember the weight of the net. But his body no longer moves. The boat is tied. The net is hanging. The day's catch has been taken away. The river keeps flowing. There is something peaceful about imagining all these separate lives resting at the same time. A city full of people. Yet most of them are asleep. The baker. The carpenter. The potter. The servant. The farmer. The fisherman. The scribe. The mason. The merchant. The child. The old worker. All of them have temporarily stepped away from their tasks. Tomorrow, the city will need them again. But tonight, the city can wait. Slowly, the hours move. The darkest part of the night passes. Then the sky begins to change. At first, almost nothing is different. The stars remain. The rooftops are still dark. The lamps still glow. But somewhere beyond the horizon, the darkness becomes slightly less deep. The first hint of morning is approaching. A bird calls. Then another. A dog moves. A door opens. Someone has woken. The Roman morning begins again. And perhaps this time we can remain with the worker as he wakes. He does not rise immediately. He lies still. His body feels heavy. The previous day's work has left its quiet marks. His back is stiff. His shoulders are tired. His feet are sore. He stretches one leg. Then the other. He moves his hands. He opens his eyes. The room is dim. There is no sunlight yet. But morning is near. He sits. For a moment, he simply breathes. Then he stands. The first steps of the day are often the slowest. His feet touch the floor. He reaches for his clothing. The tunic from yesterday may still carry traces of dust. He shakes it gently. A small cloud rises. The dust catches the weak light. Then disappears. He dresses. He ties his belt. He reaches for his sandals. One strap has begun to loosen. He examines it. It needs repair soon. Not today. Perhaps tomorrow. Perhaps he can ask a leather worker. Perhaps he can fix it himself. For now, it holds. That is enough. He puts them on. Outside, someone is already moving. The sound of a broom comes from a neighboring doorway. Brush. 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 A quiet rhythm. The street is being prepared for another day. A woman carries a vessel. A man pushes a small cart. Someone calls softly to an animal. The city wakes. The worker steps outside. The air is cool. He breathes deeply. For a short while, the morning feels gentle. Then he begins walking. Today, perhaps, his work takes him toward the river. The road slopes gradually. The city opens into a busier area. There are warehouses. Small shops. Storage rooms. People carrying goods. The smell of water becomes stronger. The river is nearby. The docks are already beginning to stir. Ships and smaller boats sit close to the shore. Some are loaded. Some are being unloaded. Others are waiting. A worker climbs down toward the water. He has a basket on his shoulder. The basket is empty now. Soon it will not be. This kind of work requires strength. Goods must be carried from boats to shore. From shore to storage. From storage to carts. From carts to markets. The movement is constant. A sack is lifted, carried, placed. The worker returns. Another sack. Another journey. The distance may be short, but repetition makes the work tiring. The worker learns to carry the load in a way that protects the body. He adjusts the weight, changes shoulders, walks steadily, avoids wasting movement. There is no need to run. Running with a heavy load would only make the body tired faster. So the pace remains steady, slow, reliable. The river is beside him. Water moves. The boat rocks gently. Ropes creak. Wood touches wood. A gull calls from somewhere above. The morning sun begins to touch the water. It shines briefly, then disappears behind the movement of the boat. The worker continues. There is a strange quietness in repetitive labor. At first, the task demands attention. But after many repetitions, the body begins to know what to do. Lift. Step. Walk. Turn. Lower. Return. Lift again. The mind can become almost quiet. The body carries the rhythm. This kind of rhythm existed in nearly every Roman workplace. A farmer planting rows. A woman grinding grain. A sailor pulling rope. A potter turning clay. A carpenter sawing wood. A weaver moving thread. A blacksmith striking metal. A builder carrying stone. The materials changed. The movements changed. But repetition remained. Human beings have always found ways to turn difficult work into familiar patterns. The pattern does not make the work easy, but it makes the work understandable. The worker knows what comes next. That can be comforting. There are no surprises. Only the next task. And then the task after that. At the docks, the sun rises higher. The air becomes warmer. The workers sweat. Their clothing becomes damp. Their hands become dirty. The smell of river water mixes with wood, rope, fish, oil, and dust. The work continues. A merchant arrives. He speaks with someone near a storage area. They examine a shipment. The workers remain nearby. They do not need to understand every conversation. Their part is simple. Move the goods. The merchant counts. The workers carry. The ship waits. The river moves. Everything has its place. For a while, the rhythm continues without interruption. Then one worker stops. He puts his load down. He stretches his back. His face is tired. Another worker does the same. They sit near the wall. The shade is narrow, but it is enough. One of them drinks water. The other rubs his hands. There is no need for long conversation. Two tired people can sit together in silence. The river continues beside them. A breeze passes. For a moment, the heat becomes softer. The worker looks toward the water. Perhaps he watches a boat moving slowly downstream. The boat carries goods, people, messages, food, objects made by other workers. The river connects places that the worker may never visit. Somewhere far away, someone made the things inside the boat. Somewhere else, someone will receive them. The worker only sees one small part of this journey. His job is to carry. And then the next person carries. And then another. The movement of goods across the Roman world depends on countless hands. One hand passes something to another. Then another. Then another. A chain of ordinary labor. The empire can feel distant. The worker may never see its borders. He may never travel beyond the region where he lives. But the empire is present in his daily work. In the goods arriving by river. In the coins used at the market. In the roads beneath his sandals. In the laws spoken by officials. In the languages heard around him. In the materials brought from far away. The worker lives inside a large world. But his daily life remains small. This is often how people experience history. The great events happen somewhere beyond the doorway. Ordinary life remains close. A bowl. A bed. A road. A workplace. A family. A meal. A body that becomes tired. The worker returns to his feet. The next load is waiting. He lifts it. The work resumes. As the sun climbs higher, the river becomes bright. The surface flashes beneath the light. The workers squint. Some cover their heads with cloth. Others seek shade when possible. The heat becomes heavy. The body uses water quickly. Sweat runs down the back. Dust sticks to the skin. The worker's hands become slippery. He wipes them against the tunic. Then continues. This is the part of the day when time can feel slow. Morning has passed. Evening is still far away. The sun seems to remain in one place. The worker looks toward a shadow. It has moved only slightly. He knows there is still much work to do. But he does not think about the whole afternoon. He thinks about the next load. That is enough. Sometimes the easiest way to move through a long day is simply to focus on what is directly in front of the body. One basket. One sack. One stone. One row. One task. Then another. In a nearby workshop, a woman is weaving. Her work is different from the dock workers. She sits. The loom stands before her. Threads stretch across the frame. Her hands move carefully. Over. Under. Pull. Adjust. Again. The pattern grows slowly. The work requires attention. A small mistake can affect the cloth. So she watches the threads. The room is shaded. A little sunlight enters through the doorway. The air is warm. Outside, people are moving through the street. Inside, the loom makes a soft sound. Wood. Thread. Hands. A gentle rhythm. The weaver may have learned the skill from someone older. Perhaps her mother. Perhaps another relative. Perhaps another worker. The skill lives in her hands. She does not need to explain every movement. Her fingers already know. The cloth grows. Slowly. Almost invisibly. One line at a time. This is another form of work that often disappears from the larger stories of Rome. Clothing did not simply appear. Someone had to grow or obtain the raw material. Someone had to prepare it. Someone had to spin it. Someone had to weave it. Someone had to cut it. Someone had to sew it. Someone had to repair it. And someone had to wear it until it became worn. A simple tunic might pass through many hands before reaching a worker's body. The same is true of blankets, sacks, ropes, sails, cloths used for household tasks. Textiles were part of nearly every area of life. The weaver continues. Her feet move slightly. Her hands move. The loom answers. Back and forth. Back and forth. The afternoon passes. She may not notice exactly when the sun reaches its highest point. Her work provides its own sense of time. When the light changes, she knows the day is moving forward. When the room becomes cooler, she knows evening is approaching. When the work is finished, she rolls the cloth, places it carefully, and prepares for the next task. Not every worker in Rome had the same relationship with work. Some were paid daily. Some had longer arrangements. Some owned their workshops. Some worked for other people. Some were enslaved. Some worked their own farms. Some depended on family labor. Some combined several kinds of work depending on the season. A person might farm during one part of the year and take another job when the fields required less attention. A family might work together. One person preparing materials. Another producing the finished object. Another selling it. The boundaries between home and work could be very thin. In a small household, the same room could serve several purposes. A person might sleep there, eat there, work there, store goods there, repair tools there. The home was not always separate from labor. Work could enter every corner of life. Evening meal preparation could be part of the day's work. Cleaning could be part of the day's work. Making clothing could be part of the day's work. Caring for children could be part of the day's work. Looking after animals could be part of the day's work. There were few hours when the body was completely free from responsibility. And yet people still found moments to rest. A person might sit on a doorstep. A family might gather in a courtyard. Neighbors might talk in the evening. Children might play. Someone might wash dust from their hands. Someone might simply lie down. Rest could be brief. But brief rest mattered. In a courtyard, a worker sits beneath a shaded wall. His hands are empty. He looks toward the sky. The sun is bright. He can hear the sounds of the city. A donkey. A cart. A voice. A hammer. Then, slowly, the hammer stops. The worker closes his eyes. He does not sleep. He simply rests. A few minutes pass. Perhaps 10. Perhaps less. Then he opens his eyes. He stands. And the day continues. These small pauses are easy to overlook. But they are part of the story. People were not machines. They became tired. They needed shade. They needed water. They needed food. They needed sleep. Their bodies had limits. And those limits shaped the rhythm of daily work. This becomes especially clear in the fields. A farmer cannot work forever beneath the sun. The land itself demands patience. A field may require many hours. But there are moments when the farmer stops. He leans on the tool. Looks across the crops. Feels the wind. Checks the soil. Listens. The field is not silent. There are insects. Birds. Animals. Wind moving through plants. The distant sound of another worker. A wooden cart creaking along the road. The farmer's world is broad and open. He can see the horizon. The city may be far away. There is no crowd around him. No stone wall immediately beside him. Only earth and sky. The work continues. A row is completed. Another begins. The farmer's hands become dirty. His clothing gathers soil. The sun moves. The shadows change. Eventually, the work pauses. The farmer eats a simple meal. Bread. Perhaps onions. Perhaps olives. Perhaps beans. Water. Nothing elaborate. The food tastes different after physical labor. Bread is more satisfying when the body is hungry. Water feels more valuable after walking beneath the sun. The farmer eats slowly. Then he returns to the field. The Roman countryside is full of such quiet repetition. A person may spend much of a lifetime doing similar work. The seasons change. Children grow. Old people become slower. Buildings are repaired. Trees become larger. Fields are planted again. And the same daily movements continue. The worker may know the land better than he knows any distant city. He knows where the ground becomes wet. Where the shade falls in the afternoon. Where animals like to rest. Where the road becomes muddy after rain. Where a particular tree gives the best shelter. This knowledge is practical. It is also deeply connected to memory. A field is not just a field. It is a place where a person has worked for years. Every corner can be familiar. Every path can be remembered. The same is true of city workers. A mason knows the walls. A baker knows the oven. A fisherman knows the river. A potter knows the clay. A carpenter knows the grain of the wood. A servant knows the rooms. A scribe knows the writing surface. Work creates familiarity. And familiarity can create a quiet sense of belonging. The worker may not own the place. He may not control it. But he knows it. His hands know it. His feet know it. His eyes know it. The workplace becomes part of his daily landscape. As afternoon begins to fade, the worker starts thinking about home. Not necessarily consciously. The body simply knows. The shoulders feel tired. The stomach begins to expect food. The feet are ready for the road. The workday is moving toward its end. At the docks, ropes are being tied. At the workshops, tools are being put away. In the fields, workers begin returning. In the city, shopkeepers prepare to close. The light becomes softer. The air begins to cool. The shadows lengthen. The worker walks home. This time, he is not thinking about work. He is simply walking. The road feels familiar. A cool breeze passes. He sees the same doorway. The same fountain. The same wall. The same small shop. A child runs across the road. An old man sits outside his home. A woman carries a basket. Someone is washing a doorway. The ordinary evening is beginning. The worker arrives home. He enters. The room is warm. A meal is being prepared. The smell of cooked grain fills the air. He removes his sandals. His feet rest on the floor. He sits. There is no need to speak immediately. He is tired. Someone gives him water. He drinks. The water is not especially cold. But it feels good. He washes his hands. Then his face. The water runs down his skin. Dust disappears. The worker breathes out slowly. The day is leaving his body. The meal is ready. The family gathers. There is bread. There may be vegetables. There may be beans. Perhaps a little fish. Perhaps olives. Perhaps a sauce made from ingredients that have been kept carefully. The meal is shared. Not every family has the same amount. Some have more. Some have less. But food remains a central part of evening life. The worker eats. He listens. He looks around the room. These are the people he returns to. Whatever happened outside, this is home. The fire burns quietly. The light moves across the walls. Someone reaches for another piece of bread. A child becomes sleepy. An older person sits near the warmest part of the room. The conversation becomes slower. Outside, the sky is dark. The city begins to quiet. The worker's eyes grow heavy. He knows tomorrow will come. There will be more work. More walking. More lifting. More heat. More dust. But tomorrow does not need to be lived tonight. Tonight belongs to rest. He leans back. The fire becomes smaller. The room grows quieter. One by one, people prepare for sleep. The worker stands. He moves slowly. His body remembers the day. The floor is cool beneath his feet. The bedding waits. He lies down. The blanket is pulled over him. The room becomes dark. His breathing slows. And once again, the great Roman world disappears behind a small wall. There are no monuments here. No armies. No speeches. No grand celebrations. Only a tired worker sleeping after an ordinary day. And perhaps that is where ancient history feels most human. Not in the largest buildings. Not in the names carved into stone. But here. In a quiet room. With tired hands. A simple meal. A small lamp. And the soft sounds of a family settling into sleep. Outside, the river continues moving. The roads cool beneath the moon. The fields rest. The workshops are still. The boats are tied. The ovens have gone dark. The tools are waiting. Tomorrow they will be used again. Tonight, they remain untouched. The city sleeps. And beneath the sleeping city, countless workers rest in countless small rooms. Each life different. Each story unknown. Each day shaped by ordinary work. The night deepens. The lamp becomes smaller. The worker does not hear the final sounds of the street. He is already asleep. And far beyond the rooftops, the stars remain above the Roman world. Quiet. Patient. Unchanging for the length of a night. The river continues beneath them. The fields lie dark. The roads wait for morning. And somewhere, just beyond the edge of sleep, the first faint light of another day is already beginning to gather. The faint light of morning slowly returns to the Roman countryside. Before the sun appears, there is a quiet grayness over the fields. The trees are dark shapes. The roads are almost empty. A thin layer of cool air rests close to the ground. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls once. Then the sound disappears. A farmhouse begins to wake. The first person to rise is not necessarily the most important person in the household. It is simply the person whose work begins earliest. There may be animals to feed. Water to carry. A fire to light. Tools to prepare. The morning does not wait for anyone. A worker opens the door. Cold air enters. He steps outside. For a moment, he stands still. The world is quiet. The fields are waiting. The animals are waiting. The day's work is waiting. He walks toward the small animal enclosure. There are sheep. Perhaps goats. Perhaps a few cattle. The animals begin moving when they hear him. He carries feed. The animals gather. Their movements are slow. Their sounds are soft. The worker fills a container. Checks the water. Looks over the enclosure. Nothing unusual. That is good. An ordinary morning is a successful morning. There is comfort in that kind of sameness. Nothing has gone wrong. The gate is still standing. The animals are healthy. The roof has not fallen. The tools are where they were left. The field looks normal. The worker can begin. He returns toward the house. Inside, the fire is growing. Someone is preparing food. The household is waking. A child is still asleep. An older person sits quietly. A piece of cloth hangs near the wall. A basket rests on the floor. The worker eats a little. Then he prepares his tools. The tools are simple. Wood, iron, rope, leather. Nothing is wasted. A handle may have been repaired several times. A blade may have been sharpened again and again. A basket may have been woven from local material and repaired when it became weak. Objects in a working household are expected to last. They are touched every day. They are familiar. The worker lifts his tool. Feels its weight. Checks the handle. Then steps toward the field. The morning sun is finally beginning to appear. A thin line of gold reaches the horizon. The sky changes. Blue-gray becomes pale. Then warmer. The fields begin to show their colors. The worker walks between the rows. His sandals touch the soil. The ground is cool beneath his feet. Soon, it will be warm. But for now, the morning is gentle. He begins. The tool enters the earth. The soil breaks. He moves forward. Then back. Again. Again. There is no need for words. The field provides its own quiet music. Earth. Tool. Footsteps. Wind. Birds. Breathing. The work continues. A Roman farmer might spend much of his life measuring time not by hours, but by tasks. This row. That section. This animal. That field. This basket. That load. The workday becomes a series of small distances. Finish one. Begin another. It is easier to think this way. The whole day can feel too long. But one task is manageable. One row can be finished. One basket can be filled. One animal can be moved. One fence can be repaired. Then there will be another. The sun rises higher. The worker removes a piece of cloth from around his head. He wipes his forehead. Already, the warmth is returning. The cool morning is disappearing. The field becomes bright. The shadows become shorter. The work remains. Nearby, another worker is harvesting. His hands move through the plants. He cuts. Gathers. Places. Moves. The rhythm is steady. Two workers may be separated by several rows, but their movements follow the same pace. Neither needs to speak. The field is wide enough for silence. At the edge of the land, a small road passes. A cart moves slowly. The wheels make a rough sound. Wood creaks. The animal pulls. The driver sits quietly. Perhaps he is carrying grain. Perhaps pottery. Perhaps firewood. Perhaps tools. The cart disappears around a bend. The farmer continues working. The Roman countryside could be full of such passing movement. People going somewhere. Goods moving somewhere. Animals being led. Workers walking. Yet much of the land itself remains quiet. Fields. Trees. Rocks. Water. Sky. A person could work for hours without seeing anything that seemed important. And still, those hours mattered. The grain being harvested might become bread. The bread might feed a family. The family might include another worker. That worker might repair a road. A traveler might use the road. A merchant might reach a market. The market might sell goods to another household. Everything is connected. But the farmer does not need to see the entire chain. He only needs to harvest. The sun climbs. The heat grows. The farmer pauses. He sits beneath a tree. The shade is small. He chooses the darkest part. His back rests against the trunk. He drinks water. The vessel is warm. Still, the water feels good. He takes a piece of bread. Breaks it. Eats slowly. The tree leaves move above him. The wind is soft. A bird lands on a branch. It looks around. Then flies away. The farmer watches it. For a moment, his work disappears from his mind. There is only the tree. The breeze. The bread. The water. The sound of leaves. A few minutes pass. Then he stands. The break is over. The field is still waiting. This is the quiet truth of physical labor. Rest does not remove the work. It gives the body enough strength to return to it. The farmer walks back. The tool enters the soil. The rhythm begins again. Meanwhile, in the city, another kind of morning has begun. A baker is already inside his workshop. The oven is warm. Very warm. The walls hold the heat. The baker's arms are covered with flour. He reaches into a large container. Grain has been prepared. The dough is ready. He presses it. Turns it. Folds it. Presses again. His hands move with confidence. He has done this many times. Perhaps thousands. The dough is familiar. Its texture. Its weight. Its moisture. The baker can feel when it is ready. He does not need to measure everything. His hands know. He shapes the loaves. Places them carefully. The oven waits. The heat comes from the fire. The baker watches. The work is physically demanding. There is lifting. There is heat. There is dust. There is repetition. The bakery becomes hotter as the morning progresses. The baker's face shines with sweat. He wipes it with his arm. Then returns to the dough. Bread is simple. But making it is not always simple. Someone must prepare the grain. Someone must grind it. Someone must transport it. Someone must prepare the dough. Someone must heat the oven. Someone must watch the baking. Someone must sell the finished bread. The smell of fresh bread eventually reaches the street. People begin to notice. A worker passing by slows slightly. The smell reminds him of breakfast. He has already eaten. But the smell is still comforting. Warm grain. Smoke. Crust. He continues walking. The bakery remains busy. Another loaf is placed inside. Another is removed. The work continues. A bakery has its own rhythm. Fire. Dough. Heat. Bread. Again. And again. In another workshop, a blacksmith begins his morning. The fire is already burning. The room is darker than the street. The worker stands near the furnace. He checks the metal. It must be heated, then shaped, then cooled. The work requires strength and skill. The hammer rises, falls, rises, falls. The sound is sharp, but even this sound becomes part of the daily rhythm. After a while, the ear almost stops noticing it. The blacksmith pauses. He turns the metal, places it again. The hammer falls. A small spark appears, then disappears. The worker continues. Tools are important in every kind of labor. A farmer needs a blade. A carpenter needs a saw. A fisherman needs a net. A baker needs vessels and ovens. A potter needs a wheel. A builder needs many tools. The blacksmith makes or repairs many of these objects. His work supports the work of others. He may never see the finished field. He may never meet the farmer who uses the tool. But the tool connects them. The blacksmith works in darkness and heat. The farmer works in light and wind. Both depend on the other. This is the quiet structure of ordinary life. One worker makes something. Another worker uses it. One person grows food. Another prepares it. One person makes a container. Another fills it. One person carries the goods. Another sells them. The Roman economy moves through human hands. And each pair of hands becomes tired. By midday, the blacksmith's shirt is damp. The baker's face is warm. The farmer's skin is dusty. The dock worker's hands are rough. The weaver's back is stiff. The scribe's eyes are tired. Different work. Different kinds of fatigue. But fatigue all the same. There is a particular feeling that comes when a working day has lasted for several hours. The body becomes familiar with tiredness. The mind becomes slower. Movements become more deliberate. A person stops wasting energy. The worker learns how to conserve strength. This is not laziness. It is survival. If the day is long, strength must be saved for the later hours. A farmer does not want to spend everything before noon. A dock worker cannot lift every load as if it were the first. A servant cannot move quickly through every room. The body has to find its own economy. Slow. Steady. Careful. The same principle applies to walking. Roman workers walked often. The road itself could be part of the workday. A worker might travel across the city. A farmer might walk between fields. A servant might move from one household area to another. A fisherman might walk from home to the water. A merchant might spend hours standing or walking in a market. Feet mattered. Sandals mattered. Roads mattered. A small injury to the foot could make an entire day difficult. So workers learned to pay attention to their feet. They repaired sandals. Wrapped injuries. Rested when possible. A tired foot is easy to ignore in the morning. By evening, it becomes difficult to ignore. The worker walking home feels every stone. Each step is familiar. But each step also reminds him of the day's labor. The road is hard. The body is tired. Still, home is getting closer. This is one of the quietest pleasures of an ordinary workday. Knowing the road home. Seeing the familiar corner. Recognizing the doorway. Knowing where the water is. Knowing where the food will be. Knowing where the bed waits. Home does not have to be large to feel familiar. A small room can contain a lifetime of memory. The same wall can be touched every day. The same doorway can be opened thousands of times. The same cooking place can warm the household through many winters. The same floor can hold the feet of children who later become workers themselves. The Roman home is not simply a building. It is a collection of repeated movements. Someone enters. Someone leaves. Food is prepared. Clothing is repaired. Water is carried. Children sleep. People talk. People argue. People forgive. People grow older. The house witnesses everything. Even when the walls are plain, the life inside them can be full. In some homes, several generations may live close together. An older relative sits in the shade. A young child plays nearby. A working adult prepares for the day. A baby sleeps. Someone prepares food. Everyone has a task. Everyone shares the space. Privacy is limited. But familiarity is strong. People know each other's routines. They know who wakes early. Who sleeps late. Who eats first. Who talks the most. Who works quietly. Who needs help. Who has been ill. Who is tired. The household is a small community. And when someone becomes sick, the entire rhythm can change. A worker who normally rises before dawn may remain in bed. Someone else must do his work. A family member may bring water. Food may be prepared differently. The sick person may be given herbs, warm drinks, or other remedies. Perhaps a healer is called. Perhaps the illness passes quickly. Perhaps it does not. The uncertainty of illness is always present. People live close to animals. People live close to one another. Water and waste can be difficult to manage. Food can spoil. Insects are common. Infections can occur. A fever can become serious. A small wound can become dangerous. People knew that health mattered. They had ideas about medicine and healing. They had doctors, healers, midwives, herbal remedies, and practical knowledge. But there was still much they could not control. This meant that a healthy day was something ordinary, but also something precious. A worker wakes. His body works. His body returns home. His body sleeps. Another day passes without illness. That is a quiet success. The next morning, the same body rises again. In the city, public baths become another part of daily life. For many Romans, bathing was not simply about cleaning the body. It could be part of the social rhythm of the day. People came to bathe, to exercise, to talk, to rest, to meet others. The buildings could be large. Some had several rooms. Warm rooms. Hot rooms. Cool rooms. There were pools. Changing spaces. Places to exercise. Workers were needed to keep these places operating. Someone had to heat the furnaces. Someone had to carry fuel. Someone had to clean. Someone had to maintain the water. Someone had to repair walls. Someone had to keep the spaces orderly. The bathhouse itself depended on labor that visitors might barely notice. A worker carries wood toward a furnace. The wood is heavy. He moves carefully. The furnace is already hot. Heat fills the room. He places the fuel. Steps back. The fire grows. He waits. Then carries another load. Again. Again. The bathhouse above him becomes warm. People enter. They talk. They wash. They leave. The worker remains below. His labor is hidden. But without it, the warm rooms would become cold. This happens throughout the Roman world. Many workers perform tasks that are invisible to the people who benefit from them. The cleaner is not noticed when the room is clean. The person who carries water is not noticed when water is available. The person who repairs the roof is not noticed when the roof does not leak. The person who maintains the road is not noticed when the road works. The worker often becomes visible only when something goes wrong. But most of the time, the work succeeds quietly. The road remains open. The water arrives. The bread is baked. The bath is warm. The house is clean. The tools function. The market has goods. Life continues. That is the nature of ordinary labor. Success often looks like nothing happening. Nothing breaking. Nothing failing. Just another normal day. As afternoon arrives, the city begins to slow. The brightest heat is heavy. People move through shade. The worker at the bathhouse rests for a moment. The blacksmith sits near the wall. The baker drinks water. The farmer pauses beneath a tree. The scribe rubs his eyes. The weaver stretches her back. All over the Roman world, bodies are asking for rest. And slowly, people give it. A few moments. A few breaths. A drink of water. A piece of bread. A place in the shade. Then work begins again. The afternoon is long. But it is not endless. The sun moves. The shadows stretch. The light changes. Eventually, the worker can feel the end approaching. He does not need a clock. He can see it. The light is softer. The heat is less severe. The streets become active again. People begin returning home. The market starts to empty. The fields become quieter. The boats are secured. The workshops prepare to close. The Roman day is turning toward evening. And once again, the worker walks. His body is tired. His clothing is dusty. His hands are marked by work. But the air is cooler. He breathes more easily. The road home seems peaceful. A child passes carrying something small. A woman stands in a doorway. A dog sleeps near a wall. A cart moves slowly toward a stable. A lamp is being lit inside a house. The first evening flame. Then another. Then another. The sky darkens. The worker reaches home. The door opens. Warmth. Food. Familiar voices. He sits. His sandals come off. His feet rest. Someone gives him water. He washes. The dust runs away. For a few moments, he simply looks at his hands. These hands worked all day. They are tired. But they are his hands. They have carried. Lifted. Shaped. Built. Prepared. Repaired. They have helped him live. He lowers them. The meal is placed before him. He eats. Slowly. The room is warm. The evening grows quiet. Outside, another day is disappearing over Rome. The worker has done enough for today. There will be more tomorrow. But tonight, the tools can remain untouched. The road can remain empty. The field can wait. The oven can cool. The river can flow without him. The worker leans back. The fire makes a soft sound. The household grows quieter. Someone begins to prepare the bedding. Someone else closes the doorway. The final light from outside disappears. Only the small lamp remains. Its flame is steady. Then it flickers. The worker's eyes become heavy. The ancient city beyond the walls is settling down. The sounds of labor are fading. The great Roman world is becoming quiet again. And beneath the moonlight, thousands of ordinary people are beginning the same slow journey toward sleep. Not all in the same homes. Not all with the same food. Not all with the same work. But all with tired bodies. All with another morning waiting. And for a few peaceful hours, the work can stop. The Roman worker lies down. His breathing becomes slow. The room grows dark. Outside, the night wind moves gently along the stone streets. A distant river carries the moonlight. The fields rest beneath the stars. The workshops are silent. The tools wait. The roads wait. The ovens cool. The boats are still. And the people sleep. For now, nothing needs to be done. Nothing needs to be carried. Nothing needs to be repaired. The night is enough. The worker closes his eyes. And the Roman world becomes quiet around him. And now, as the night settles gently over the ancient Roman world, the day's movements begin to disappear. The streets are quiet. The workshops are dark. The market stalls are closed. The tools have been placed against the walls, waiting patiently for another morning. The fields lie beneath the moonlight. The river continues its slow journey through the darkness. And in countless small homes, Roman workers are finally asleep. The farmer has finished thinking about the field. The baker has left the oven to cool. The fisherman has tied his boat. The carpenter has put away his tools. The potter has covered the clay. The weaver has stopped the loom. The servant has finished the evening tasks. The scribe has closed his writing materials. The mason has left the stones where they rest. Everyone has stepped away from the work of the day. For a little while, the ancient world asks nothing from them. There is only sleep. A small lamp burns beside one sleeping household. Its flame is weak. It moves gently in the night air. The walls around it are quiet. A blanket rises and falls with slow breathing. Someone turns in sleep. Then becomes still again. Outside, a soft breeze passes along the street. It moves through an open doorway. It touches a hanging piece of cloth. Then disappears. Far away, someone walks slowly through the darkness. His footsteps touch the stones. One. Then another. Then they fade. The city becomes quiet again. Beyond the houses, the fields are resting. The earth that received so many footsteps during the day is still. The tools that touched the soil are silent. The animals are sleeping. The trees move gently in the night. Above them, the stars remain. They have watched countless nights pass over these fields. They have watched workers leave their homes before sunrise. They have watched harvests come and go. They have watched children grow into workers. They have watched old workers become slower. They have watched roads become worn beneath thousands of sandals. And still they remain above the sleeping land. The river flows quietly beneath them. Its surface catches a faint reflection of the moon. The water does not hurry. It simply continues. Perhaps a fisherman is sleeping somewhere near its shore. Perhaps tomorrow he will rise before sunrise again. Perhaps he will take the same boat. Use the same net. Follow the same familiar water. And perhaps another worker will walk beside a field. Another baker will light a fire. Another potter will sit beside a turning wheel. Another servant will carry water. Another mason will lift a stone. Another family will prepare bread. Another child will wake. The Roman world will begin again. But not tonight. Tonight, the workers are resting. And perhaps this is where we can leave them. Not with battles. Not with emperors. Not with monuments. Not with the noise of history. But with the simple quiet of ordinary people sleeping after an ordinary day. People whose names have mostly disappeared. People whose hands once shaped wood, clay, stone, bread, cloth, rope, and earth. People who walked roads that still exist in broken pieces. People who drank from vessels now buried beneath the soil. People who slept beneath roofs that have long since disappeared. People who worked, ate, rested, loved, aged, and slept. Their lives were not always easy. Some carried heavy burdens. Some lived with hunger. Some lived with illness. Some had little freedom. Some worked beneath harsh conditions. Some had homes filled with comfort. Others had very little. The ancient world contained many kinds of lives. But beneath all those differences was the same quiet human rhythm. Morning came. The body rose. The hands began to work. The sun crossed the sky. The body became tired. Evening arrived. Food was shared. The lamp was lit. The body rested. And then came sleep. Again. And again. For years. For generations. For centuries. This was the quiet rhythm beneath the great Roman world. And perhaps that rhythm is worth remembering. Because history is not only made from the things that were written down. It is also made from the things that happened every day and were never recorded. The bread that was baked. The water that was carried. The sandals that were repaired. The nets that were mended. The fields that were planted. The rooms that were swept. The fires that were tended. The children who were fed. The workers who returned home tired. The families who waited for them. The lamps that burned quietly beside sleeping bodies. These small things formed the texture of life. They were ordinary. And because they were ordinary, they happened again and again. Tonight, we have walked quietly through that world. We have followed dusty roads. We have stood beside warm ovens. We have listened to tools striking stone and metal. We have watched boats move along quiet water. We have rested beneath trees. We have smelled bread near a morning bakery. We have heard the soft movement of sandals across stone. And now, slowly, all of those sounds are fading. The hammer has stopped. The loom is still. The oven is cooling. The river remains. The wind remains. The stars remain. The worker sleeps. The room is dark. There is nothing more that needs to happen. Let the ancient streets become distant now. Let the old stone roads fade softly into the darkness. Let the fields become quiet beneath the moon. Let the lamps become smaller. Let the sounds of the Roman world become softer and softer. The distant cart disappears. The footsteps disappear. The voices disappear. The workshop disappears into darkness. Only the quiet river remains. Slowly moving. Slowly flowing. Never hurried. And beside it, beneath the ancient night sky, the land rests. The worker rests. The household rests. The city rests. For a few peaceful hours, there is no labor. No lifting. No carrying. No walking. No measuring. No counting. No building. No selling. No harvesting. Only rest. Only darkness. Only the gentle rhythm of breathing. The night becomes deeper. The moon moves across the sky. The stars remain above the rooftops. And somewhere beneath them, a sleeping worker turns slightly beneath a simple blanket. Then becomes still. His breathing continues. Slow. Quiet. Peaceful. The Roman world has become very far away now. The roads are distant. The fields are distant. The workshops are distant. The ancient voices are distant. Only the feeling remains. The feeling of a long day finally ending. The feeling of tired hands becoming still. The feeling of warm food in the evening. The feeling of cool air after the heat. The feeling of reaching home. The feeling of lying down. The feeling of knowing that nothing more is required tonight. And as the darkness settles completely, the river continues to move. Softly. Quietly. Under the moon. Carrying the reflections of the ancient sky toward places no sleeping worker can see. The water passes. The night passes. The centuries pass. But for this quiet moment, everything is still. So let the Roman streets fade. Let the old houses fade. Let the workshops fade. Let the fields fade. Let the distant lamps fade. And let the ancient world become only a quiet image in the darkness. A small home. A sleeping worker. A low lamp. A cool night breeze. And somewhere beyond the walls, the slow sound of water moving through the night. There is nothing more to carry now. Nothing more to build. Nothing more to finish. The day is complete. The night is peaceful. The worker is asleep. And beside the quiet river, beneath the ancient stars, the Roman world rests. Slowly. Softly. Until even the last little lamp disappears. And there is only darkness. Quiet darkness. Warm darkness. Peaceful darkness. The kind of darkness that asks nothing from you. The kind of darkness in which the ancient roads disappear beneath the moon. The kind of darkness in which tired hands finally become still. The kind of darkness in which the river continues flowing without hurry. And the night carries everything gently away. The worker sleeps. The city sleeps. The fields sleep. The river moves. The stars remain. And the ancient world grows quiet. Very quiet. Until there is only the soft sound of water in the distance. And then even that becomes softer. And softer. And softer still. Until the night is completely still.